Blog Talk Radio.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Adimina wa Habib Qulubina wa Shafi'an Nufusina Abul Qasim Muhammad wa ala Ahli Baytihi Tayyibina Tahirina Ma'sumina Sadiqeen. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, I'd like to welcome all of you back to Invited to the Straight Path Radio. We've been off the air for a little while, school, life in general, and making sure that we have sponsors for the show that we can continue to bring out the best Islamic information for the mu'mineen and mu'minat here in America and throughout the world. Inshallah, tonight we have a very, very special guest. He's a very good friend of mine. He's an author. He's an activist, and he's also homegrown. He's a convert to the religion of Islam, and he has an amazing story to tell. Not only is his story amazing, but the things that he has done since he has become a Muslim should inspire each and every one of us. The individual that I'm referring to is none other than our brother, Mateen Charbonneau, and inshallah, we'd like to welcome Brother Mateen to the show. Assalamu alaikum, Mateen.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. It's very good to hear your voice.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on your show today.
Alhamdulillah. Now, for those of you who don't know Mateen, Brother Mateen, what we want to do is, first of all, we want to introduce him. And I think the best way to introduce this brother would be by him introducing himself. And what I'm going to ask you is something that I know thousands, if not tens of thousands of people have asked you, and that is, how did you come into Islam? More importantly than how did you come into Islam, how did you come into the love of Ahlul Bayt?
Okay, well, let's see. It starts off, my government name is Joshua Charbonneau. So when I became a Muslim, I chose Mateen because it meant strong and firm. And at the time when I became a Muslim, I had a lot of people coming at me, trying to shake me from my faith. Certain people were trying to get me to go to other schools of thought. Certain people were trying to get me to go to Christianity. I had gang members pulling me, trying to get me to go back to that life. So I chose Mateen because when I made up my mind to become a Muslim, I wanted to be firm and unshakable and stick with that. I didn't want to go back to my previous life. I'm originally from Sumter, South Carolina. You might know where that is, Sheikh Hanif, because from Atlanta, so it's not too far. It's definitely not a touristic place. It's pretty rough. And when I grew up in a split. My family split when I was young, so I lived with my mother. I live in some housing projects and not so great side of town. My whole neighborhoods were gangs, so pretty much that's all I grew up with, watching gang members. And eventually I fell victim to that too because I was looking for role models in my life. So those were the only people around, just guys in the neighborhood, and they would, sell drugs and steal and rob and carry guns and just a regular gang life that everybody probably knows about. So I became a gang member, and I just was living that life. And eventually you get tired of living that life. And but a lot of times you're too far in it to get out of it. I was basically doing all those haram acts, and I wanted to change, but I got caught up too deep in it. And one night I got attacked by a large group of people, probably maybe it was anywhere about 50, 60 people, and it was just me and one other guy. So they surrounded us, and I ended up shooting one of them. So I went to prison this all took place when I was 16 years old. So I went to court, and let's go back a little bit. When I was waiting to go to court, I was in the county jail. So that time gave me time to reflect. That's what jail does for you. It gives you it takes you out of the heat of the moment and everything that's going on. It gives you time to sit back and think about what's going on in life. So I was sitting in my cell. I was thinking. I was like, I'm tired of this, because I had been to juvenile before, back and forth ever since I was 12, in and out, getting in trouble. wasn't going to school, committing crimes. And then once I got to that county jail, I said, well, I want to try to change. I don't know if I'm going to get time for this charge that I got or not, if I'm going to go home, if I'm going to beat it, if I'm going to go to trial or what, but I'm going to try to learn some stuff while I'm in here. So my family was Christian, from a Christian background, and they're really religious. I didn't really go to church or anything, but I believed in God. Even while I was ripping and running through the streets, I still believe there's just one God. And I didn't really know too much about religion except what you like learn in Sunday school or something like that. So I said, well, let me take this time and I'm going to start reading the Bible. So I read the Bible from cover to cover. I had a lot of questions because a lot of stuff, once you read, most people don't read the book like that. They just read a part and then they read another part. So if you read it from cover to cover, it didn't really make sense. Like certain parts, they contradicted each other, and I'd flip back and say, wait a minute, this part says something different than this part right here. So I started asking questions to people and the preachers and stuff that would come in there, and they'd be like, oh, no, you shouldn't ask those type of questions. You just believe it, and that's it. Don't ask questions. Those type of questions you're asking are like against Christianity and against the belief. You have the wrong belief. So I was like, well, I want to know these questions before I become anything, if I was going to become a Christian or not. So I saw this guy doing something in the county. He was praying. I didn't know what he was doing, but he was going through the motions of Salat. At the time, I didn't know it. So I asked somebody, I said, well, what's that guy doing over there? They said, he's praying. So I said, well, praying, what religion is that? I don't know. I've never seen that before. And they said, oh, he's a Muslim. So I started inquiring more about Islam, and the guy was in another cell block, so there's a door you could see through like a window, but you couldn't get over there. But he had like a Quran, and I wanted to read it, but he couldn't get it to me. So basically, I was like, one day I'm gonna get that Quran, and I want to read it and see what that's all about. And I ran into different paths in prison. I tried to research all these different things before I made my mind up. So later on, I ended up going to court, and I got 10-year sentence when I was 16 years old. So they sent me to maximum security in South Carolina. And I ended up running into, when you go to prison, you try to find people from your hometown because they send you all over the state. And you just try to link up with people that you're familiar, at least you're from the same area, and you can try to figure out what's going on. So the guy in my dorm, he was from my hometown, and he happened to be a Muslim. So I was just like, I was glad. I was like, teach me about this. I finally found it, teach me about it. So he taught me how to pray, and he taught me about the different answers, the questions I had about the Bible. He pretty much answered all of them, and it made sense. So I said, okay, I want to be a Muslim. So he said, okay, well, you need to learn how to pray. So he taught me how to pray. And then I became a Muslim. I had been in jail about a year by then. So when I was 17, I became a Muslim in 1999. That's pretty much the background story on how I accepted Islam.
Alhamdulillah. That is, wow, we all appreciate your honesty and how frank you were, especially with the fact that you were going to prison. And the fact that, it seems like when things are at their darkest, you just got booked, you're sitting in a cell, you're reflecting on God, and, we've always been taught that if you make a step towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He comes to you with speed. And it looks like He was guiding you even at that point. Now, the question I have is, okay, we know how you became a Muslim, alhamdulillah, but, it is highly improbable, especially in the jail system, to say, okay, I'm going to become a follower of Ahlul Bayt. Because, the overwhelming majority of Muslims in the world are Sunni, and in the jails especially, you come across very, very few members of Ahlul Bayt. So please walk us through how that whole transition came into effect.
Okay, yeah, that's a real interesting one. Okay, yeah, you're right. It's a big problem because you have a lot of extreme people in prison who they left one life to extreme and kind of went to another, but they kept that extreme character with them. So that's where you see like a Salafi, Wahhabi, people with that ideology that everybody else is wrong, and they talk a lot about, they're all like militant. And you do see a lot of that in the prison system, and you don't see a lot of Shia. But the place where I went to, alhamdulillah, the whole community pretty much was like, I'd say it was like 85% Shia and like 15% Sunni. And it was amazing. Like, that's the best community I have ever been in. Even being outside of, prison, I mean, I just reflect and see, how good that community was, and that just shows me, like, how good a community can be by that standard. Because, like, everybody, like, brotherhood was, like, all the way there. Like, we ate together, we study together, work out together. It's like if you hang out with your brothers, when you go to class or whatnot, or you have after Ramadan, you have iftar and you all hang out. It was kind of like that, but all the time. But we'd all study together. So I started reading books, about Islam. So one of the first books I read was Then I Was Guided, and that book helped me a lot. And the leader of the community that we had there was a young guy, and he knew Arabic, mashallah. He learned Arabic in prison, and it was like, he was fluent, like grammar and everything. And he just was more knowledgeable than anybody else. You could just tell. Even nobody could refute whatever he said. He could come from Quran, from Hadith, from history, and just bring the books and just show it to you. And he just seemed the most knowledgeable. And there was a whole bunch of people like that. So I was 17, and let's say these guys were in their early 20s. So they kind of scooped me up under their wing. It was like, because I was still wild when I became a Muslim. I still had, I was a teenager, and I was kind of running around. It was kind of wild. I still had a lot of that in me. So the older guys kind of pulled me to the side, was like showing me how to act. Like, oh, you're a Muslim, you got to do it this way, and they were kind of guiding me, and they were giving me books to read. And then, eventually I got it all straight, and they we would go study those books, because I would ask a question. Let's say I asked somebody, why do we pray like this way and not like the other Sunnis? Why do we pray different? They say, I don't want you to take the answer from me and just say, oh, brother so-and-so taught you how to said this, because that doesn't hold any weight. He said, I'm going to give you this book. You read this book, get back with me, and we'll discuss it. You got any questions, just ask me after you finish reading the book. But if you don't read anything, you won't know anything. You can't take everything from word of mouth, from whatever I say or whatever somebody else tells you, because we could just be making stuff up and you don't know. So why don't you read it for yourself, and then when somebody asks you, you can say, oh, I read it in this book or this page number by this author. And then that holds more weight than brother so-and-so telling me. So pretty much they taught me, and a lot of people in the dorm, in my dorm, they were Sunni, and a few of them were Shia. But when I started asking people, I said, well, what is all this Sunni Shia? And I thought we were just Muslims or whatever. I didn't know. And the guy said, oh, when somebody asks you, you just tell them you're a Sunni, and that's it. That's it. Just say you're Sunni. I was like, well, what is a Sunni? I want to know what a Sunni is before I just say, hey, well, I'm a Sunni. You can't be going around claiming something I don't know what I'm doing. That's just like, I came from gang life, and you got to know what you're claiming, when you're out there, or you could get killed for something like that. And so I was just like, hey, I want to know what I'm doing before I get into anything. I could be, this is a lifetime commitment. I just don't want to say, oh, I'm a Sunni and I don't know why, just because these other people are. So I went to the guy who I thought was most knowledgeable, and they used to talk behind his back and say stuff, but they couldn't confront him because he had too much knowledge. So I told him, what was going on. He kind of laughed and said, yeah, they're going to try to tell you this, but read these books. And so he gave me Then I Was Guided and a few other books that were really good, and it showed me. And then I said, well, you know what? This is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be Shia. So from the very beginning, I chose that path of Shia Islam.
I mean, it's really interesting what you're saying, because when you want to talk about things that are highly improbable, who would have thunk that in South Carolina, and for those of you who are listening across the country and up in Canada and overseas too, when you talk about South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, you're talking about the Deep South. Not only are you talking about the Deep South, but you're also talking about being in the midst of the Bible Belt. And this young man is in prison of all places, and while he's in prison, he hears about Ahlul Bayt. Not only that, but the brother talked about community life. You know, and to be honest with you, bro, the way that you described that community there, it seems like more of us need to go into prison to really find out what real community life is all about.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Like when the brother came in, like say we're all in the dorm and we've been there for a while, and a new person come in. Like every week we would take some of our money that we had, like maybe our family sent us money or something like that. We would buy a few things and give it to one person in the dorm. Like we called it like Beitul Mal, like a treasury. Like you were designated, and you hold this. Like when I go to the store, I might buy my food and stuff like that. But I'm gonna buy 2 bars of soap and a deodorant and a toothpaste, and I'm gonna give it to brother so and so, you know, and give it to him. And everybody in the dorm did that. So when somebody came fresh, and they're like, I'm a Muslim, we could look out for them and say, oh, here, you know, you don't have anything. We're gonna give you some soap, some deodorants, toothpaste, so you can get on your feet and, you know, start getting stuff together. So everybody was really close, you know. It was a really good feeling. Like we made all our prayers together. Like even Fajr, like everybody would wake up. We had a big room that was designated for like prayer. Different people used it. Like Christians would use it for their Bible study. Muslims use it for Salat time. So you would go up there and call the Adhan loud, like the whole dorm would hear it. It was like you hear in Islamic country, you know, call the Adhan. Everybody in the dorm would stop what they're doing who was Muslim. They go up there and pray. It was good, you know, that part of it, you know. I don't say I miss prison, but I miss that aspect of it sometimes, you know. And but the thing about the system is you have Muslim chaplains. Like, but for instance, every community, South Carolina has a lot of prisons. They lock up a lot of people, so they have 27. I think it was like 27 prisons when I was there, or 32, somewhere up in the high 20s of numbers of prisons. So the state can't afford to hire a Muslim chaplain for each and every prison. So basically the most knowledgeable in the community of the prisoners would lead the community. And then you had 2 Muslim chaplains who would oversee all the stuff. And pretty much they only went to the communities who had problems. They had a lot of problems, they would come and visit and try to straighten stuff out. One of them, he doesn't work there anymore. He was a Salafi, like hardcore. And the other guy, he was a good guy. He really didn't get into all that stuff. He was, let's say, just like an American Muslim for like Warthi Muhammad branch of Islam, and they don't really get into all that. He kind of played it fair with everybody. He disagreed with Shiism, but he didn't really stop you from practicing it. Let's put it like that. But the other guy was kind of rough towards Shias. He tried to stop books from getting in there at one time, and then he brought this guy from a leader from the masjid in South Carolina in there to try to straighten us out because we had so many Shia. It was like 85% Shia. Let's say the community had 100 people, you know, like 85 of them were Shia because there's about 100 people in that community at least that were Muslim. So 85 Shia all in one place. And a lot of us were knowledgeable. I knew some brothers that knew like two-thirds of the Quran by heart, and some other brothers that knew, most of them knew Arabic. I don't know where the Arabic came from eventually, you know, in the beginning, because I learned Arabic from them, from African-American brothers. And I don't know where they learned it from, you know, but somebody along the way came in and taught them Arabic, because when I came home and I read Quran in front of Arabs, they said my recitation was really good, and that they couldn't believe that I learned Arabic from an American. They would laugh, we'd laugh about it, but they said it was good. So this guy came in, and he started, as soon as he came in there, one of my good friends, actually he lives in Atlanta now, he calls the Adhan, beautiful, you know. And then when he gets to the part, you know, Hayya ala khara amel, the guy's like, A'udhu billah, you know, bid'ah, and starts saying all this stuff. We ignored him. We already knew it was going to happen. So afterwards, he said he came up there in front of everybody and said, I came here to teach you your religion, so listen to me, you know. So we let him. He went ahead and did his part and started talking about stuff. And then my friend who I told you who taught me, he was the leader of the community. He went up there and said, okay, I'm going to refute whatever you said. And he came from, the guy who came in was from Egypt. So he knows Arabic. He used to be a teacher in Mecca in Saudi Arabia. So my friend got up there and refuted everything he said. And the guy started trying to play the card like, oh, I know Arabic and you don't, so what you're saying isn't right. So my friend went up there and broke it down grammatically about the ayat of Tatir, about the purification of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and the guy had to accept it. He came in there saying, let me teach you your religion, and then he left and said, maybe you could teach me, you know. But of course he left. He never came back. But he had to submit to that really showed me right there that, you know, this guy was teaching in Mecca, you know, a big teacher overseas, and this guy in jail knew more than he did from sitting down and studying and just taking his time, dedicating his time to his studies, and even learned Arabic so good that he could prove him wrong, and the guy was Arab. That really showed me right there, like, these people know what they're talking about. So it really solidified, you know, my belief in what was going on and why I chose the right way when I saw stuff like that.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, this is just so amazing, the fact that who would think, I mean, for those of you who are listening right now, who would think that, you know, you would go to prison and you would have indigenous people from here reading Arabic, being able to go through the books of Ahadith, the books of Sirah, and refute things from people who have studied in the Islamic lands. I mean, this is just great. But what it seemed like to me was, in listening to you, is that you did a lot of studying. And, you know, you said that you first went to prison at about the age of 15. Now, at 15 years old, I mean, I know me, my grandmother, she always gave me books so that I could read. But, you know, at 15 years old, I mean, how did you get through all of these books? And better than that, I mean, you know, while you were in prison, how many books did you read? Because it seemed like you did a whole lot of research while you were there.
Yeah, well, I had a 10-year sentence, and South Carolina has a 85% law for violent crimes. And since I shot somebody, I had to do 8.5 years, and then they didn't count some of my time from before while I was waiting. So I ended up doing 9 years complete off of the time. So I came in when I was 16 and came home when I was 25. And like I said, these brothers, a lot of them are out now, and I keep up with them. But when we were in there, they were giving me books. We got all our books from different organizations in America and overseas, like Al-Qaeda Foundation in New York. There was something in New York also called Bilal Muslim Mission. They're from Tanzania. They would send in free books. We got books from Iran, from Ansarian Publications. They'd send free books. But I started reading these books, and I just wanted to be knowledgeable about whatever I was doing. And my friend would always say, this older brother, he would say, Mateen, you need to take your time and learn your deen now, because when you go home, you're going to be too busy. You're going to be working. You're going to have a family. You're going to try to take care of everybody, and you're not going to have time to study like you do now. So don't waste your time running around here playing basketball and cards and dominoes and watching TV. You need to sit down, you know, and try to learn your religion, so that way you can stay out of jail when you go home. You need to learn the you know, akhlaq and morality, morals and character of the Prophet and from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and these things will keep you out of jail, not playing cards and watching TV. So I took that to heart, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start reading these books. And I just started reading like one after the next, and I tried to focus on like a specific topic. Like, say I want to study history, so I'd try to gather all the history books that they had in the facility. I'd read the ones I had first, and then try to study that subject and read a few different books on the same subject, so I can kind of be well-rounded and see what different people say. Same thing for like fiqh. When I studied fiqh, I would read like the different risalah from different maraja instead of just one, and try to compare and see what they said. And I probably read close to at least around maybe 80 books, at least maybe 80 to 100 books before I came home, and in English. And then I also learned Arabic while I was there. I mentioned earlier, but I didn't at first. I was young and I didn't really see the need for a second language. I started learning Arabic when I was 18, but really the reason that made me learn Arabic is a good friend of mine. He just wrote me. As a matter of fact, he's doing like Scare Street and stuff for the community in South Carolina, trying to talk to youth, keep them from coming back to jail. But he still has a few more years left to go. And one day he called me in the room. I was like 18, and he said, "Mateen, let me show you something." Because I didn't want to learn Arabic, and a couple of people tried to get me to learn it before, and I didn't see that as something I needed at the time. And I'm glad I did learn it. But what made me learn it was the guy called me in the room and said, "Let me show you something." He said, "I'm gonna pick up this Quran." It was all Arabic, right? And he picked it up. He said, pick up the other Quran." It was an Arabic English one. So pick it up, open it up, flip to anywhere in the book. I flipped there. I just saw I'm on Surah this and Ayat this, right? So he said, "Okay, just give me a second." He flipped to it in the Arabic Quran, and he just started reading it to me in English from Arabic. He would read it, but be translating it, and read it to me in English. And he said, "Am I right? Is it right?" And I said, "It was like exact, almost exact." And I was impressed. I said, "Wow, you can do that?" I was amazed. I was like, "Man, teach me." And after that, I started learning Arabic. I learned how to recite it, and then learn grammar. And then I started reading the Quran. I wanted to get like that. So how I did it was during Ramadan. After a few years from reading Arabic, I took the Quran, and you read juz by juz every day. Each section you're supposed to read for 30 days. Well, I read it in Arabic, and all the words I didn't know, I looked them up in my Arabic English dictionary, and I'd write the root word down, and then I would I memorized the words, basically. So the next time I read the next juz, it'd be easier because the words repeat themselves. And by the end of the 30 days, I didn't need the English anymore. I could just read it with the Arabic and understand it.
I mean, for those of you who don't know, Brother Mateen, and this is your first time actually hearing the story, this isn't my first time hearing it, and every time I hear it, I'm definitely in awe. I see that we have a few callers in the queue, and, we're going to allow them to ask a few questions, and we're going to continue with the interview because once we get a few questions in, what I really want to do is I want to talk about the fact that, this young man who went to prison, who learned about Ahlul Bayt, and he did something significant once he got out of prison, which was to compile references. And for those of you who hadn't received his books, I don't want to let the cat out the bag. I'm going to let him speak on it. But we have a couple of callers in the queue, so for those of you who are listening right now, if you want to speak to Brother Mateen, you can actually give us a call at 347-637-3974. And we have a caller from, it looks like, California, 323-889. If you have a question or a comment, please make your question or comment. And if you don't have a question or comment, just say you're just enjoying the show, and inshallah, we go to the next caller, inshallah. So caller 323, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Inviting to the Straight Path Radio. Hello? Calling you on the line. All right, so I guess the caller doesn't have a question for right now. Inshallah, we'll get back to them. We have a caller out of Atlanta, Georgia, 678-768. Assalamu alaikum. Calling you on the line. I don't know what happened there. But at any rate,
you want me to? That's pretty much what I went through to get into prison, like how I learned about Islam. I don't know if you want me to continue and start maybe from when I came home.
Yeah, well, actually, what I wanted to do is I definitely wanted want you to talk about from when you came home. But one of the things I wanted everyone to know, especially for those of you who read the backdrop of this program, Brother Mateen has written 3 books, and on his transition coming home, I'm quite sure he's going to talk about that. But there was something very, very special about the first book he compiled. He didn't actually author it, but he compiled it. So, Brother Mateen, inshallah, if you would, tell us about when you came home and tell us what inspired you to make your first book, this compilation, and what is in this compilation, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. When I came home from jail, from prison, I didn't want to stay in South Carolina anymore because I had all those same people. I knew they were going to be calling me like, hey, come here, come there, let's do this, let's do that. And I just wanted to start fresh. So my family had moved to Delaware, so I decided to go there first and start out there. And I had to go do some paperwork when I came home, like I had to be on like a probation sort of thing. I had to check in for 2 years every month. So I went up there first, and I just kept, studying. I pretty much did the same routine. I didn't know anybody. I just would stay home, study, go to work, come home, study. And then I started going to the different cities around the area, like Baltimore, Philly, New York, D.C., and I ended up liking D.C., and then a lot of people, I knew somebody there, and he said he could get me a job. So I moved to D.C. Through that way. So I ended up moving to D.C. around 2008, the end of 2008. And I started working there and establishing my life there. And I found out, they have like, let's say, I think it's 5 Shia centers there. So I started going. I went to one, and then I never had prayed outside in a masjid before because I've only prayed in prison. So you learn these things from the books. You read the Risala and the fiqh books, and you learn how to pray. But you haven't seen anybody pray. You still kind of wonder, like, am I really doing this all the way right? I mean, I'm reading it from the book, but I've never seen anybody else pray. So is it right? So when I went in there, I mean, it was amazing. I was just glad that. You heard the adhan call, like the way we call it in Shia Islam, and everybody prayed the same way I did, and I just it felt good. It felt really good to be amongst another Shia community because when I was in prison, when I told you in that big community, they ended up breaking it up. They came in and shipped all of us all over the state to try to stop it, but what it did was spread Shia Islam to all the other prisons. So then they had a bigger problem on their hands because everywhere we went, I was one of the ones that got shipped. But as soon as I was being oppressed where I was at when they were splitting us up, but when I went to the new prison, as soon as I got there, they made me they called it like a mirror of education. So I was the one who taught the classes to the whole yard of like 200 people. I started teaching classes at age 19. So they spread us all around. But anyway, I was going to these masjids in D.C. area, and then I met up with some good people and Sheikh Mustafa Akhund and his family in Imam Ali Center and in Springfield, Virginia. So they had a channel at the time, Anwar Hussein TV. So they told me, oh, we're doing stories on reverts, converts, and we're traveling all around to different states, and we're filming it. And I was just joking with him. I said, oh, I got a real crazy story. I bet you never heard one like mine. He said, oh, we want to hear it. I said, okay, come to my house sometime and we can film it. So he came to film the documentary in 2011. If anybody wants to look it up, it's on YouTube. They can just look up my name, like why Mateen Charbonneau converted to Shia Islam. Or it's under their page, too, as The Journey of the Spirit. It's on YouTube. So that pretty much tells my whole story as well in that documentary. So I kept going around and hanging out with them because Sheikh Mustafa used to do classes, and I used to take classes from Sheikh Abdul Jalil. If people aren't familiar with him, he's a resident alim now at Idara Jafariya, and very, very good Sheikh. He's Hafiz of Quran and very knowledgeable. And I would go to his classes. I go to Sheikh Mustafa's classes as well. So Mustafa would go to Ziyarat frequently. Their family goes to Karbala and Iran a lot. So I just got around them when they were going. The first, they were going with some other people. They were taking them. But it was too short for me to try to get everything in order. And I was like, oh, man, I really want to go. And I missed it. I came too late. So every time, like he could probably tell you, like every month from then on out, I would call him to say, hey, man, when are we going for a ziyarah? When do I need to give you my passport? When are we going to go? When are we going to go? All the time. He's like, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let you know. And then finally the time came, and I went with him in 2012, and we went to Najaf and Karbala, and it was amazing. Like something I never thought I would ever do in my life. And to end up in the shrine of Imam Ali and reading about him for all those years, and it was just like, it was unreal, you know. And I went in this shrine, and it just kind of like lost myself. It was like as soon as you go under that big golden door, it's like a sense of power that you can feel. Like I can't even explain it. There's so many people in there. Like you're kind of squished in between everybody trying to reach the actual Darif, but where he's buried. But the pressure doesn't feel like it comes from the side of you where people are pushing you. It felt like it was coming from above. Like I can't even explain. Like a pressure felt like it was coming down. Like it's hard to explain. But I went in there, made my prayers. It was just an amazing experience. So when we left Najaf, and we were going to walk to Karbala, and for trying to put that in a distance of like in the United States would probably be like walking from D.C. to Baltimore or something like that. It's pretty far.
Right.
It takes a day or two, a couple of days, maybe like 2 days, and you got to be walking a lot. So we walked. I'm saying this to tell pretty much why I chose to write the books and do the thing with the books, because I had the idea before I left about making this first book about the suffering of the Ahlul Bayt, and I wrote the table of contents, and I showed it to Sheikh Mustafa, and he was like, mashallah, this is really good, you should do this. And I just put it to the side, and I didn't do anything with it for a while because I was trying to get myself ready for Ziyarah, and I had kind of forgotten about it a little bit. So we're walking, and, you know, it's a long walk, so we're talking, and he's like, oh, Mateen, how's your book coming? So I was like, oh, man, you know, I thought about it, and I was like, oh, I didn't even start it yet. I need to get on that. So I saw all these people. The whole walk is people giving away things, tea, food. They have booths like the whole way, like booth after booth after booth. And they have they're called Malkibs. They have so many. There's like a waiting list to get on the Malkib. Like just all the way down. Like even to establish a Malkib, it's hard. Like you have to get on a waiting list to even do one. There's so many of them. And imagine all that way from like D.C. to Baltimore or some far distance. There's a booth all the way there, and they're all giving away stuff for free. I mean, these people will grab your hand and pull you to the table. They don't even want. My friend told him, he's like, he had enough. He's like, I don't want any more. I can't even eat anymore. And this guy was like, take this date. And my friend was like, no, I don't want the date. And the guy just put it in his mouth. He said, take it. It's from Abu Fadl Abbas. This is for his mawqif. You have to take it. And I was just like, wow, like this generosity of these people was amazing. And most of the American media, they portray like Islam and people as like mean and like, evil, and they don't. I was just like so amazed at the hospitality, and they gave. And a lot of people didn't have much. Even if the family didn't have anything, you had like little kids that would come and try to give you fruit, and that's all they had. Their family didn't even have that much, and but they would give everything they had. So for me, I was thinking, I said, what do I have? I didn't have really any money. I was just scraped by trying to pay rent. And, I was like, what do I have to give? What can I give when I get back? And I said, well, thought about it. I said, I had studied all those years, and I know how to look up resources pretty good. I can find things easy. If somebody has a topic, I can say, oh, I read that in such and such book, and I can kind of remember where I saw that and flip to it and find it. And I said, well, you know what, I'm going to finish that book that I thought about. I'm going to do this when I get back, and maybe that's what I can give back. And I can put all of these stories together, because the book's called The Suffering of the Ahlul Bayt and Their Followers Throughout History. And most of those stories, when you read about the tragedies of Ahlul Bayt, the stories aren't all in the same place. You find a piece of the story in one place, another piece in another book, another piece in a different book. They're all scattered. Like if you want to read about Hujr ibn Adi or Mateen Tamar or these type of personalities, the stories are kind of spaced out. But like I said, I read a lot of different books while I was in jail, so I remember where they all were. So I said, well, let me put all these together and arrange it in a way that I can make it chapter by chapter, and the person doesn't have to go search all these different books. They can just go to one resource and look it up. And I took all the sources from well-known books that were in English, and it wasn't my writing, so I just compiled it and just arranged it in the order to make it easy. Because I did it also because like I was saying earlier, the Shia are oppressed in prison, so they don't really listen to you unless you have a proof. You have to bring your proof and prove it from sources, but you're only allowed to have 10 books in jail, or you have to swap it out and get another book. So you can't have more than 10 or they'll take them from you. So all these sources are in a lot of different books. It would probably take, 20, 30 books to have all those sources, and you'd have to flip to them and look them up and show them and have all the books laid out on the table. That's what we used to do when we debate, but I want to make it easy for them that they could have all that stuff in one book, so it frees up the other 9 books they could have. So I said, well, I'm going to make this book. I'm going to send it all to the jail, and that way they can defend their position. So that was my main intention for doing the book, was to send it to them. And then I said, well, I'm going to put it out to the general public too, so other people could benefit from it as well. And it's been doing good. A lot of people have been writing me back from prison saying that they've been using it and helping other people with it, and it's been going well with the book so far.
That's amazing. Not to cut you off and nothing. That is amazing. I just wanted to just make mention of what you just said. Now, brothers and sisters, this is a guy who was in prison for 9 years, and he learned his Islam there. He got out. He went on ziyarat, which is, for those of you who have not made the ziyarat yet, trust me, he says that he cannot explain it. It is something that you cannot explain, and it changes your life forever. Brother Mateen went, and it was laid on his heart for him to do something beautiful, which was to continue and complete this compilation of Shia sources. Now, I have the book, and for those of you who don't have the book, Brother Mateen is going to tell you how to get that book. But more importantly than that, he didn't forget where he came from. In prisons, we look at prisons and we look at it as being something very, very bad, but in a lot of cases, many of our imams, alayhim salatu wasalam, actually were put into prisons. And this brother, he said, these individuals need to learn too. So he sends those books back over there, and listen to what he said. Some of the people who received this book, their lives also changed. Brother Mateen, you were sharing with me earlier that there were some people who wrote you and said to you, I want to know more about Ahlul Bayt. How can I know more about Ahlul Bayt? Please share with the people how you sharing your book had allowed those individuals to embrace Ahlul Bayt, inshallah.
Okay. When I went to, let's say, for instance, when we were in Dearborn, I saw you there for Ummah conference. I'm just there and I'm talking with people and going to hear the lectures. And one day, I get in the elevator, right? It's packed in there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this brother says, this American brother, he says, Mateen. So I just turned, and I don't know him. I said, Assalamu alaikum, greet him. And he said, just out of nowhere, he said, man, your book changed my life, like that. And I was just surprised. I was like, wow. I thanked him for reading it, and everybody was kind of looking at me in the elevator, and I was like, get off. What stop are you getting off? I want to talk to you. And I talked with him, and he was like, I'm from northern Michigan, and this book really helped me, and it helped me decide to become a Shia Muslim. And we have other people that we were in contact with, and they're here at Ummah too, and these other people are reading your book now, and I want to introduce you to them. And it was just like, it was a big blessing. You know, I never imagined it going that far. And then later that night, I ended up doing Mateen with the brother. We were listening to Abu Dhar Halawachi, and we had a really good time. He wanted to meet with me, and I sat down and talked with him, and I stay in contact with him now. And, you know, these books, I didn't really want the Thawab to come to me, you know. So what I did in each beginning of the book, I said, and this is what the author of Mafatihul Janan did as well, Sheikh Abbas Kumi. He said, you know, you have a lot of dua books, but for some reason, you always see that Mafatihul Janan is the most popular and most well-known one. And they asked one of the scholars why that was, and he said that he dedicated the reward for the book to Fatima Zahra. So in the beginning of each book that I did, once I did the first book, I said I dedicate this one to Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, the wab for this, and then the next book I did the same thing for the Prophet, for Imam Ali. And, you know, my goal once I did the first book, I wanted to do like 14 eventually, inshallah, if Allah grants me that. I want to keep working towards that. But I have people write me from prison, you know. I'll get into that maybe a little bit later when I can tell about the second chance books for prisoners.
Absolutely. Now,
Also, there was another brother that wrote me too. I didn't think, but there were some places that they didn't have, like Husseini or Masjid, and they wanted to do Muharram. And one day I was on the internet, and I was just looking around on Facebook and social media and stuff like that, and I saw this picture of a group of people, like in a circle, and they were doing majlis, right? And they were reading from the book, from the Suffering of the Ahlul Bayt, because they were all American. They wanted to read it in English. And I was just like, SubhanAllah, you know, this is something that I just didn't even imagine, because I did a book to help out my friends that were left in prison with life sentences. I could send these books to them so they don't get oppressed. I never thought about it, you know, taking this shape or form in the general public.
Wow, again, that it seems like whenever you do something fi sabilillah, and you do something for the elevation of Ahlul Bayt, it takes on a life all of its own. Now, what's really, really interesting is that you wrote that book and it helped other people, but you compiled that book, but you've actually written 2 other books. And, you know, it's amazing how you go from this compilation to your other 2 books, particularly Christians who defended and died for Prophet Muhammad and his family. And, you know, for me, for those of you who hadn't read this book, this, especially those in America, this book is very important. In Europe, it should be very important. In lands where Islam is not actually known, where Christianity is the major religion, those individuals have no idea that there were actually Christians who not only came to the aid of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, embraced the religion, but also during the time of Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam, you read about these Christians or whatnot who helped Ahlul Bayt. Brother, please talk to the people a little bit about that book in particular, inshallah.
Okay, the book titled Christians Who Defended and Died for the Prophet Muhammad and His Family. So when I was compiling the stories for the first book, I saw a lot of Christians and Christian monks that stood up and defended and fought for Imam Ali, fought for Imam Hussein, alayhi salam. And there was many different instances that Christians just they saw the oppression and they stood up and they defended the Ahlul Bayt, alayhi salam. So I said, I thought to myself, I said, how could I present this to my family, that I could show my family what what Ahlul Bayt is about, and not what they see in the media. Maybe these stories could help other people show their Christian families what Christians did for Islam. So I took these stories, and then I wrote some chapters about, basically about the Quranic ayats about Christians. And for those of you who don't know, there's even ayah that says that if the churches or the synagogues or the mosques are attacked, that the Muslims are supposed to defend them. And most people think the Muslims hate Jews or the Muslims hate Christians, and that's the dogma that goes around, but the Quran speaks otherwise. And also about Imam Mahdi, Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, we're waiting on the Savior, our 12th Imam. We pray for a lot of hasten his reappearance every day. We always pray and do a Faraj. And, the Christians wait on Savior too. They wait on Jesus, alayhi salam. So there's similarities. Like we're waiting on Imam Mahdi, they're waiting on Jesus. I wanted to draw these similarities. So I also put a chapter about about this and about the Imam's mother, Narjis, and that was pretty much how I shaped that book. And I wrote it with a mindset on how can I present this to a Christian and way they can look at it and benefit from it, and then have a different view about Shia Islam. And this book's a short book, it's about 50 pages, and it's been translated, alhamdulillah, by ShiaTranslate.org. A good friend of mine started this organization in London. His name's Jabir Ahmadi, and he started Shia Translate. They translate a lot of videos and a lot of books into English and other languages, and they translated this small book into French and to Spanish so far. So it's in English, French, and Spanish.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, and another book that you wrote was The Mystery of the Shia.
Yeah, The Mystery of the Shia was actually a book that I wrote in 2008 when I was home, when I said I was in Delaware for that time.
Right.
I put it together then, but I went back and added some things and changed it around and kind of turned it into what it is now. But when I used to teach classes in prison, there used to be a lot of stuff about why do we pray different? Why do we hold our hands by our side while they fold their hands? Why do we say Hayaleh Khara Amal? Why do we say Ashhadu anna Ali and Wali Allah in Adhan? Why do we do this? Why do we say Salam straight? Other people say it right and left, or all these different things. Why do we takbir 3 times after Salah? There's all these differences. They say, like Sunnis say, different thing in their Fajr Adhan, and we don't. So I used to teach these things to Muslims on a day-to-day basis, and I had them all wrote on paper, and I would teach them to them so that way they could defend what they believed in and prove it from the source. And so a lot of the book is this. I put these chapters in there and also wrote about Usuluddin, Furuuddin, what the word Shia means and where it is in the Quran, Hadith, and basically like the rights of a Muslim, the forbidden acts of a Muslim, about wudu, and different things like this. So it's sort of like a beginner's book for a new Shia Muslim to learn about the beliefs and practices. And I had Sheikh Mustafa Akhund, he read it and wrote a review for me about it. And I remember you read it as well before I published it. Yeah, so this book would be good for people who are trying to figure out, like, why are the differences, what are the differences in the madhabs.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't have the book, any of the books, Brother Mateen is going to tell you how to get the books. But more importantly, if you have friends, American friends, non-Muslim friends, non-Shia friends, if you share this information with them, trust me when I tell you this, they will become so enlightened. What the brother did was he took all of the legwork out of looking for the sources and trying to find all of these things on your own, because most of us don't have that type of time. So he blessed us with that. And, in that same vein, now again, for those of you who are just logging in, Our brother spent time in prison. Now he's out and he's doing beautiful things. He went to Ziyarah. He's giving back. He's sending books back into prison, but he didn't stop there. For those of us who say we don't have a whole lot of resources, we need to wait until we get this type of education. We need to hold off on doing this because maybe, inshallah, this is going to happen. The brother said, you know what? Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given to me, these are my talents. I am going to multiply them. I'm going to use them to the best of my ability. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is multiplying his talents. And this can also happen to you. He didn't stop with just writing the books. He also started an online library. And what I would like for you to do now, inshallah, is talk a little bit about the online library. How many members do you have? And I want you to talk about the publishing company that you and a couple of your friends founded, inshallah.
Okay. 1 second here. We have, let me look at it. We have 21,933 members in this. It's a Facebook group. Basically, one day I had a lot of PDF files for books. And I said, let me make a library online and make a group and just upload all these PDFs and just see how it goes. And I just put Shia books for free download. And mashallah, all these people started joining. They started contributing and adding their own books and, books they had in PDF and Urdu, Farsi, Arabic, English. And I had to it's just like overwhelming. I had to even get some admins, and there was a lot of people, thank them for their time. And, they go in there and they approve members and approve posts and they add books themselves. And they kind of, it's a big group effort. We all kind of run it, and it has close to 22,000 members in it now. So all these people, if you just go on Facebook, you can just join it, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of free PDF books you can just look through. Or what most people do is they go in there and they say, I'm looking for this book, and and they put the name of the book, and then one of the admins will say, okay, it's here. And or you can look through the file section and look through all the hundreds of files and search. And I didn't think it would turn into 22,000 members, but alhamdulillah, it's good. We can all share the free resources that we have and help each other out.
Now, his was beautiful. I accepted Islam way back in 1991. So I've been a Muslim, alhamdulillah, for 23 years. Now, here's the thing. Back in 1991, we didn't have the internet sources. Facebook hadn't been created. And if you needed or you wanted to read a book, especially for Ahlul Bayt, your choices of how you received those books were very, very limited. Many of us, with the few books that we did have, we would write publishing companies. The publishing companies like that you mentioned earlier, Bilal Dawah Mission, Ansarian, just a whole host of different publishing companies, and ask them to send us books. Or we would have to drive to New York. We would have to go call out to Houston just to get these books that right now you've offered them online for free to download. This is tremendous. Brothers and sisters, if you hadn't gone to that Facebook page, please go to the Facebook page.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just thinking about when you said about using your talents and what you have. I been attending Hausa for like the past year with Sheikh Mustafa Al-Kun, but his teacher is in Najaf, and I visited him when I was there. That was Ayatollah Sayyid Murtaza Shirazi. And I had a good time meeting him, and what he always emphasized was, to take the talents that you have. Everybody has different talents, and find out what you're good at, and take that talent and use it for Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salam. And that was one of the main things that he emphasized on. And when I came back, I met him there, and it was a great experience. I wrote an article about it because I asked him some questions about how we can get closer to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. But one day I was in the masjid for my Hausa class, and then Sheikh Mustafa's father was coming. He came from Karbala, and I thought about it before I left my house. And I was like, it'd be really cool because when I was there, I didn't write the book yet. I was just like determined. I just made the intention that I was going to finish it. But now it had already been finished. So when Sheikh Mustafa's father came, I was thinking to myself, I said, it would be really cool if I asked him if he could take the book there to him and give it to him. And I was like, it'd be even really cooler if he would even take a picture with my book or whatever. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of like out far-fetched, asking like a big Ayatollah to take a person of that stature, you take a picture with my book, I'm a convert, and this, and I was just kind of brushed it off. So when I went to the masjid that morning, I drove over there. The first thing his father, Sheikh Mekki, told me, he said, he gave me the salam. Before I could even say anything, he said, Sayyid Murtaza Shirazi sent his salam to you, and he said he wants your books. I'm going to take them back to him. And I was like, wow. I couldn't even believe it because I was just thinking about that before I left my house. And then he took the books over to them, and then he looked through them, and he said that he was really proud of what I did when I came back from Karbala. And then I got an email one day with him holding a picture of him holding my book. And I just, that was really big for me. That really encouraged me to keep moving forward with what I was doing.
Well, I'll tell you what, besides starting an online library for free, and please, for all of you guys who are listening now, take the time, go on Facebook, join this group so that you can benefit from these books. And a lot of times, for those of you who purchase books, you know that they could be very, very expensive. So here's the opportunity to get those books for free. But tell people about it, and if you can, contribute towards it. Now, one of the things that I was really, really wanting to get to, and for those of you who want to speak to Brother Mateen, you can give him a call at 347-637-3974, is Yassine Publishing. Please tell us about Yassine Publishing, inshallah.
Okay, so Yassine Publications was a joint effort. It wasn't all me. It was a joint effort of Brother Ibrahim Jabbar, who's in Maryland. He's a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends, and Brother Jabbar Ahmadi in London. He has Imam Mahdi Foundation, and he's the one I told you started different projects like Shia Translate. And
right.
I was part of the Shia Translate as well. Like I helped upload a lot of videos that I had with subtitles to their website. So me and him were in communication because of that. And then one day I told him about the idea that me and Ibrahim had before, because me and Ibrahim had planned out a whole system. And pretty much we used to go, some generous brothers in D.C. had let us use their office space to come do it, and he helped us out a lot. And we sat in there, we'd go down to D.C. in the office and plan out how we were going to send these books to prisoners. Because I had been sending books to my friends already since I was coming home, and then Ibrahim was like, we got more people that's in prison too. I know some people that's locked up, and we can make this thing bigger than just sending a few books to South Carolina. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. We should make a whole program, just like how Bilal Muslim Mission had, how Alcoa Center had, and we could help take the load off of these organizations. So we sat down there and planned it all out in the office with some other brothers. And then, I had a son, alhamdulillah, my son's name's Ali. And then things got kind of hectic at the time. I needed to move. I had to relocate because, financial things. I had to get a different job. And so I moved down to Richmond in Virginia, about an hour away from D.C. now. But during all that, we kind of just put everything on the side. And we're like, we got it all put together, but we didn't know how to do a website and stuff like that. But we had the whole format of everything else down. Just kind of put it on the side, so we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it at a later time. So when I was talking with Jabbar about Imam Mahdi Foundation and Shia Translate, and he wanted to do 14 projects for the Masumeen alayhim salam. So one day we're sitting down talking over the internet. I called him on Viber, and I told him about the idea that Ibrahim and I had about sending books to prisoners. He was like, "Oh, I wanted to do something like that too." I said, the only thing is I don't know how to do a website. Neither one of us couldn't build the website. We were missing that aspect of it. So Jabbar, that's his specialty. So he was like, "No worries, I'm gonna pay for the website. I'm gonna do everything, and I'm gonna have it up and running." And all three of us, we started communicating regularly, and we would talk about everything. And we put the whole program together about sending books to prisoners. And also, we don't only send books to prisoners. That's just like a part of what Yassine Publications is, because the prisoner program is called Second Chance Books. But it comes out of Yassine Publications, because one day I was like online and I was looking for some books that I used to have, and I don't have anymore. Maybe they got misplaced in a move or somebody, I don't know where they're at. So I'm going to reorder this book. Go online, look up the book. The book is $30, $45. One of them's $30, one's like $45. I said, there's no way in the world that a book should cost $45. It's not that big. So I was like, why is a book going to cost this much money? It's just like extortion. No, they shouldn't cost that much. And it doesn't cost that much to print because, I've already learned the process of printing books because I published 3 of them. So I know how to publish the books. So I said, I was talking with Ibrahim about it. This shouldn't happen this way. It isn't really right. And it makes it hard for people who want to learn that don't have that much money. A lot of people, it's hard out there. Price of living is high. The rent's high, the car note, all this other thing. I mean, last thing you're thinking about is trying to order some books for $45, $30. Just don't have it. So I was like, well, we sat and came up with an idea. How about we just make these books available for, as cheap as possible, at publication price. And that way people can afford the books. They could maybe buy more books for maybe instead of paying $30 for one book, they might get 2 or 3 books for $30. And so we started taking, we got the rights to, I have the rights to famous author and translator Yassine Al-Jabouri, and he lives in Kazamiya in Iraq. For those who don't know, he translated Najm Balaga, and he translated Quran, and he wrote Karbala and Beyond, and he's 68 books he's written and translated. He gave us, he saw what we were doing and reached out to me and he said, I want to give you all the rights to my books. And I communicate with him daily. A really good brother. May Allah reward him for all his efforts for Shia Islam. And we also have the rights for Ayatollah Sayyid Shirazi's books from their office in D.C. And there's a lot of books that are public domain that we have, old books from like Sheikh Saduq and personalities like this, Sheikh Mufid, they're public domain. So we were able to reprint these books, and we made them as cheap as possible, and they're paperback. And so we established with Yassine Publications, we made a online bookstore where you books for affordable prices. That's pretty much what it is. Quality Islamic books for affordable prices. So what we do, we have the online bookstore. And then as a part of that program, we started Second Chance Books, where we send books to prisoners for free. We collect donations. It takes about $25 to send a package of 6 books to prisoners. So we go on social media or email and things like this, and we say, I checked the P.O. box. We have 5 letters. I said, oh, okay, we need funding to send these prisoners books. So people donate. And we take the $25 that they send. It covers 6 books plus shipping. So we just take the money and then we send it right back out to the prisoners, and we send a letter with it to state that it's like we're starting a study course with them. Like, read the books, write us back, and tell us what you learned out of the books, at least one of the books. And then once we see what you've learned, we can kind of judge which book we should send you next. And we'll send you 1 book at a time like this. Every time you write us back, tell us what you learned. We'll keep sending you 1 book at a time for the remainder of your sentence and try to help you learn what you need to learn before you come home. And that's pretty much what we've been doing with Second Chance Books. But we've got some amazing letters. 2 months ago, this guy wrote me, He said he was Sunni. He wanted to learn about Shia Islam and see what was going on with it, and he was interested. He met some other Shia brothers, said, I don't have any idea what this is. And they gave me this address and said, write you, and maybe you could help me out. So I sent him a package of 6 books. One of the books was Then I Was Guided. So he wrote me back 2 months later, 3-page letter, about how amazing Then I Was Guided was and how he can't understand how the people can't see how clear this truth of Ahlul Bayt is. And he said, from now on, I'm on the Ark of the Ahlul Bayt. They're the Ark of Salvation. He just wrote us back and told us, that he accepted Shia Islam. And there's plenty of letters we've been getting like that. Other brothers writing us saying they're oppressed and people, they don't respect them because they don't have the sources to provide the Wahhabi and Salafi to prove their creed on what they're doing. So they get oppressed for that because they think that they're innovating and they think that they do shirk. And, all the books that the prison system has through their library are all Sunni and Salafi books. They get like the books by the Kitab al-Tawheed, the Abdul Wahhab from Wahhabi books, those type of books like that. They even send books in there. They call Demolishing the Shia Creed. That's one of them. And there's another one that calls Shia's the Satanic Sect or something to that nature. And they send all these books in there to these brothers who are converted to Islam, and they don't know any better because they don't have any Shia books to read. So they read these books, and they automatically think we're deviants and that we're misguided, and then they oppress any Shia that they meet because Shia Muslims, we need to kind of step up and send their material to them, but they're kind of like the forgotten brothers of the community. They're out of sight, out of mind. Don't really see them. You don't really know about them. They're in prison or whatever. Just leave them there, and just cast them on the side. But, these people are going to come home, and if you don't help educate them, give them the proper tools and that they need for change, I don't know how they're going to change. But if you send books to them and they accept Shia Islam, learn Akhlaq, Ahlul Bayt, alayhim assalam, they're going to come home. They're going to interact with their families, their communities, all these other people they used to deal with, and they could teach them and show them what was going on, and that the Islam portrayed by the media and the Salafis and Wahhabis and these types of people isn't the correct ideology. And no, Islam is like this, and then show them about how the Prophet really taught it, and how Imam Ali taught it, and how the Imams taught it. But they need the resources.
Here's the thing, brothers and sisters. For those of you who are listening, and you may say, well, alhamdulillah, the brothers helping the people out in prisons. But one of the things that you need to realize is, number one, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never looked at anyone as being just worthless. And he dealt with a lot of individuals that people looked at as being the worst parts of society. What's happening here is that, I hate to say this, but it's the truth. The Salafis and the Wahhabis, we have a tendency to say, these guys, they're rude with the deen. They don't really understand. They don't respect the Ahlul Bayt the way that they should be respected. But what they do is they take all of their information. They're training people to become chaplains. They're training people to become advocates of jail. When they meet somebody that's in the prison system, they're getting all the links that they need, and they're flooding our prison systems here in America with their material. Now, like the brother said, eventually these people come home, and they're having families, and they're teaching their families, and they're teaching people on the outside this type of Islam. If we're not doing the same thing for our brothers and sisters who've made mistakes, then eventually what's going to happen? And one last thing before I turn it back over to Brother Mateen. At one time, we thought that the only prisoners that we had to worry about were people who are indigenous Americans, either Caucasian Americans, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, or whatever the case may be. But right now, because I do a lot of correspondence with prisoners, We have brothers from Iraq, brothers from Iran, brothers from India, brothers from Pakistan who were born Shia, who are in these prisons, and they're second generation. Many of them are second generation, third generation that have been here, and they don't know anything about Islam. A lot of times, some of them, when they go to jail, they begin to learn Islam, but they're not learning the love of Ahlul Bayt. They're learning the hatred of Ahlul Bayt because, the truth is the light, and I have to say the truth. A lot of times in our homes, we aren't teaching people things. Don't take what this brother is saying lightly. Not only should we get information to these brothers that are in prison, but we should also make available for anybody that's wanting to learn anything about Islam and Ahlul Bayt, we should make these resources accessible for them. Because if you're a Sunni, you can get Qur'ans, you can get books on prayer, you can get all of these things. So tell the people about Yasin Publications. Tell them about Second Chance. Tell them about the online free downloads for the PDFs. Yes, Brother Mateen.
Yeah, I wanted to just say, when you were talking about Iraqis, and I've gotten letters from like Palestinians, Iraqis, and I just got one really short one I'll read to you here. I just got it in the last time I went to the mail. It's an American brother, but he's pretty much, I'll read it to you. Okay, he says, Dear brothers and Ramadan Mubarak, I'm a practicing Muslim that follows the Isni Ash'ari Madhab, and I am currently incarcerated in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, where the majority of the Ummah is that of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'at and Salafi Wahhabis, and I'm unable to follow my deen in the open out of fear of isolation, ostracization, so I practice taqiyya. There are also other brothers here who are also Shiite and fear the same fitna that I do from the Wahhabi methodology and their followers. I was given this address by a Christian chaplain who works at the facility to help me write and get any and all Islamic literatures that may help me and the other brothers who are here, who are also Shiite. The brothers are Iraqi and don't really speak and write English as well as I do, so I humbly write you to request of Quran and Najr Balagha, and then he keeps going on naming some other books. So that shows you there that, the same thing like you said with Iraqis. And I was really surprised that a Christian, because I haven't sent anything to this state yet, Ohio. It was just from Ohio. And I was wondering, how did somebody write me from Ohio? Because normally you send to one state and then the word spreads around in that state. And the guy said a Christian chaplain told him, go to Yasin Publications to get the books. They'll send you free books. So I thought it was really interesting, because the guy must have went to the Christian chaplain and said, hey man, we need some help and getting some Shia books. Can you help us find a way? And he probably went and looked online, Shia books for prisoners, and then we came up, and then he told him. And we just sent him a package of 6 books. So inshallah, they'll be getting them soon.
Alhamdulillah. Well, we have a caller on the line. We're going to see if we can get a question in, inshallah. We have a caller from 770-419, inshallah. If you have a question for Brother Mateen, please ask it. If you have a comment about the show, please say it. Or if you just want to tell us that you're enjoying the show, that's fine too. So, caller, inshallah, you're on the line.
Assalamu alaikum. Is this my brother Hanif?
Yes.
This is your favorite Christian, Susan.
Hi, Sister Susan. How are you? I hadn't heard your voice in a long time. This is one of our long-term listeners. I pray that you're enjoying the show tonight, inshallah.
I am. I first want to say I want to thank my Shia brothers and sisters in Iraq who have sheltered the Christians that were expelled from Mosul. I understand that they're sheltering them in the shrine of the Imam Ali Hussein. I also believe that you need to put your money where your mouth is, and I have been greatly blessed by God. So I would like to offer a donation of $1,000 for Sheikh Hanif. If you could just message me on Facebook after the show and tell me who to make the check out to and the address, I'll get the check in the mail this week.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much. May Allah reward you.
So God bless you all, and God bless our my Shia brothers and sisters who have taken such good care of the Christians.
Alhamdulillah. For those of you who've been tuning in to the show over the years, that voice should be a voice that's familiar to you. She has always supported the things that we've done here, and she's attended the Dua Kamel sessions. She's provided iftars for us at her house. She's a great resource for interfaith dialogue, and this is what it's all about. It's not just about us telling people about different things, but here's a Christian sister that's saying to us, letting us know something that many of us as Shia may not have known, and that is that, and Brother Mateen, you made mention of it, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Quran that if the churches and the Senate, the verse is, and I'm not going to go through the whole verse, but it says, the prophet, he didn't want to fight. Everybody says that our prophet is a warmonger, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs our prophet that if you do not fight, then the churches, the synagogues, the mosques where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name is being worshipped, that they will be destroyed, they will be no more. This also extends to those people who go into those places of worship. And what you're going to find is, brothers and sisters, is that efforts like what Brother Mateen is doing is actually enlightening people. Listen to what the brother said. It was a Christian chaplain who let these other people know what's going on. We live here in America.
I actually sent that same article that I saw about the Imam Ali Shrine and Abu Fadl Abbas, Imam Hussein Shrine. They all took in the Christians and made a collective effort to help them and get them on their feet and protect them. I sent that same article to my grandfather. So I've been talking to my grandfather over the years, and now he sees, okay, you guys are good, and what your prophet taught is good, but you're being misrepresented by other people, and they have more money and the media outlet and all the attention. But I see that there is a group among the Muslims that are good, and you're part of that group. So, but before, he really hated Muslims when I came home from prison. So now, by sharing these things with him, like that the article that the sister mentioned about the Christians being protected, he sees a different side of the story.
Absolutely. So, brothers and sisters, Brother Mateen, I'm looking at the time, and it's almost been an hour and a half that we've been chatting. I didn't even feel it.
Yeah.
Because the information is so important that we share with everyone. Inshallah.
Can give you the website. I don't know if I mentioned the website of where to get the books or whatnot, but it's www.yasinpublications.org, and on there is also a link for the Second Chance. It's on the same website. It's just a tab at the top, and they have a donation button there. So we've been taking donations basically through there, through PayPal. And that's the way to help out with the prisoner program, and also the bookstore is there as well. So when you go to Yasin Publications, you'll see a tab that says Second Chance Books, and then when you click that, you'll see the description of the program and also the donate button on the website.
Alhamdulillah. Now, our brother is very, very active within our community. He and I are actually a part of Stand with Dignity, an organization that was founded by the Muslims for Peace Foundation up in New Jersey. We put out a few videos over there. The brother had his documentary that he told you guys about that you can actually find and watch to learn more about him. The website that he just shared with you guys. I am so honored to have this young man on our program. And inshallah, for those who may not have listened to the program in the beginning, here at Inviting to the Straight Path, we want you to know that all of our things are archived, and you can go to i2spradio.org, and you'll see Brother Mateen's picture there. And I'm going to give the website and the information where you can see his other things, inshallah. And please, just spread the word. We are so happy and so elated to be back on air. I would like to thank a good friend of mine by the name of Brother Amin Toussaint. He was an individual who decided that, you know what, let me sponsor Inviting to the Straight Path so that we could continue to have good Islamic discussions. And for those of you who want our shows to continue, please go to our website, and you can also donate through our PayPal, and this will make sure that we're able to continue. This week, we're returning. We're also bringing back Dua Kamel and the discussions from Dua Kamel. You can listen to those on Thursday night, right after Maghrib time, Eastern Standard Time, which is about 9:15, 9:30. It'll be there. Actually, we'll probably do it before Maghrib, inshallah. That way you can listen to the lecture, and afterwards you could go and do your salah and your other nightly activities, especially because it's getting darker later right now. And inshallah, I really appreciate each and every one of you joining us tonight. Brother Mateen, inshallah, if we missed out, if we didn't discuss something, please, the floor is open to you. If you want to have any parting remarks, or if you wanted to discuss something that hadn't been previously discussed, please feel free. This is your show.
Okay, I think we pretty much covered everything. That was pretty much my whole life story. We covered a lot. There was one thing that I saw that a lot of people haven't been doing is on the iBooks, like iTunes store.
Right.
Is when you go on iTunes and you try to look up Shia Islam, there's only a handful, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 books. There's not a handful. So my first book that I did, all the paperback books are available at Yasin Publications, but I made a version available on iTunes for the Suffering of the Ahlul Bayt. But what I did in that book, I added illustrations. So I put pictures to go along with the tragedies, because there's people, mashallah, people draw very well and try to draw the scene that they imagine in their mind of what happened. And I included these in the book along with the stories, and I also have the latmiya, or the eulogies that people recite when they have the subtitles with them, or short clips from scholars about the incident in the book. So the book is very unique because it's got the text, it's got the pictures, and it also has videos in the book. It's like $2.99 on iTunes. So I thought, because a lot of people have iPads, and we should have more books available on, the iBook store. So the book is also available there. And basically, I just wanted to thank you for letting me come on the show and give a thanks to, a few people, like Ayatollah Sayyid Murtada Shirazi, Sheikh Mustafa Akhund, Ibrahim Jabbar, Mustafa Mujtaba Akwan, Jawad Sayyidain, Mahdi Garvi, and Jabbar Ahmadi, and all my friends and family and everybody who's helped me and showed their support for me and helped me along my way. I really appreciate it, everybody, and all their efforts, and want to thank everybody. May Allah reward you all.
Alhamdulillah. So just as a reminder to you guys, if you weren't able to hear the whole show tonight, don't worry about it. As soon as we complete the show, there will be a link for the archive sent directly to Facebook. You can click on it, and you can listen to it. You can download it anytime you want to do it. And on next week, inshallah, we'll be honored to have Sheikh Older Mahawish. Many of you may not know the name, but if you've read the book, Fatima the Gracious, he is the author of that book. We're going to talk a little bit about the conflict over in the Middle East. And this brother is from Jordan, and it's been his life mission to share the message of Ahlul Bayt over in Jordan. So please join us on next week at 6 o'clock p.m., where we'll have Sheikh Older Mahawish, inshallah. I would like to thank Brother Mateen again for his beautiful, beautiful information that he shared with us. I would also like to thank those who sponsored us so that we could continue to do our work mission over here. And as always, if you guys have a show idea, if you want to come on and co-host the show with your show idea, please feel free to reach out to us. Send us your information. You could contact me, Hanif Muhammad, on Facebook. You can go to our Facebook page, Invited to the Straight Path. You can email us at i2spath@gmail.com, or you could send it at sh@hanifatlanta@gmail.com. Send your ideas. We'd love to hear from you. Send in any type of responses you have from the show. Any mistakes that were made, they were definitely mine. Anything that you've learned great out of this session comes only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll continue to pray for each and every one of you. Please accept our apologies for our shortcomings. Tune in next week. Let us know what you think. We appreciate all of you. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.